Happy Valentines! Today I am going to do a reading from Steve Bell's Pilgrim Year devotional book from the Epiphany, The Feast of Saint Valentine. Why should this martyr be our Valentine? Perhaps because he kept his covenant. Malcolm Guide. Now, the intro here includes a defense of why it's part of Epiphany, at least this time. The Epiphany season of the church year, which is followed by the Lent season, which he's going to talk about in a moment. Some will object that I've included a chapter on St. Valentine in a book reflecting on the season of Epiphany. Since the beginning of Lent is not a fixed date, the feast of St. Valentine, depending on the year, can fall at the end of the longer tradition of Epiphany or at the beginning of Lent. I have somewhat randomly included it in Epiphany, as it begins to turn our sights from the theme of light in Epiphany to what I would argue is then the main theme of Lent, which is love, covenant love. According to the tradition, Bishop Valentinus of Terni was executed, beaten with clubs, and then beheaded by order of Emperor Claudius II on February 14th in the year 269 of the Common Era. His body was hastily buried on the outskirts of Rome, only to be dug up days later and returned to his home by his disciples. His feast day was instituted in the year 469 by Pope Gelasius I, who included the martyred priest among those whose names are justly reverenced among men, but whose acts are known only to God. I find this fascinating because it's showing the development of the Roman Empire and Christianity as a religion, where I assume in 269 there was no pope yet, but there was still an emperor. But then by 496, 220-something years later, things have changed. And of course, anything from the earlier era is hard to get facts on because it was not a powerful religion at the time, and there weren't as many people writing it down or protecting it and such things. So, indeed, little is known about St. Valentine that is historically verifiable. His legend may well be a composite figure of several different men or people. Enough confusion about his identity exists that the Catholic Church discontinued veneration of him in 1969, though his name remains on its list of officially recognized saints. Wow. So 1500 years of veneration, and then they decided to take it off the list. Not take it off the list, but you heard what he said. Okay. My own interest in Valentine concerns his legend as a patron of covenantal love, a love that transcends mere romance and erotic desire by ascending to the dizzying heights of a divine human fruitful union, which is a quote from an unknown author. The story goes that he became an annoyance to Claudius, the emperor, when, against imperial decree, Valentine defiantly performed Christian marriages at a time when the emperor needed young men to fight the various wars on his vulnerable borders. You see, marriage temporarily exempted men from military service. When Valentine was brought before the emperor, Claudius found that he quite liked the recalcitrant holy man, But Valentine could not be swayed. Instead, he fervently encouraged Claudius to embrace Christianity, and the emperor declined, and then ordered Valentine's execution. I guess he didn't like him enough. According to legend, on the night before his death, the soon-to-be martyred Bishop of Tournai wrote a tender letter to the daughter of his, before execution, jailer, and the daughter whom he had previously healed of blindness. He signed the note to her, "Your Valentine." To be sure, this is a dubious legend, historically, but it has a poetic veracity that is worth our attention. It is interesting to me how St. Valentine's Day, a day when we celebrate covenantal love, is perhaps hastily buried at the outskirts of Epiphany, on the border with Lent, a penitential season set aside for the Christian faithful to contemplate with sorrow and tears the devastation of infidelity. Liturgically speaking, Valentine's Day functions like a set of binoculars to help us look through the wasteland of infidelity to the greening of Jesus, Jesus' love that will not let me go. When we consider how Valentine gave his life for covenant love, it isn't a stretch to see him as a reminder of Christ's restoration of the covenantal relationship between God and humanity through the giving of his own life. It may be time for true love's disciples to dig up Valentine's remains and carry them home, as it were, to be properly memorialized. Did you catch that? It may be time for true love's disciples to dig up Valentine's remains and carry them home, as it were, to be properly memorialized. For in our day, love has been so trivialized and distorted that movie marketeers recently thought themselves clever to release 50 Shades of Grey, a movie about denigrating sadomasochistic eroticism, on, of all days, Valentine's Day. More telling, they were rewarded on the opening weekend with sales of 85 million, which basically dates the writing of this chapter. While I don't mean to be a cultural curmudgeon, I do take to heart author and musician Andy Crouch's suggestion that the proper antidote to bad culture is good culture. In this regard, I offer a modest protest that I hope will honor Valentine's legend, as well as the truest love and lover he beheld. The song that I've included below could be read as a note composed on the eve of a lover's execution. If we have eyes to see, we may even be able to make out a signature in faded ink at the bottom, "Your Valentine." And now we're going to read This Is Love, Music and Lyrics by Steve Bell. And so you can look up the music for This Is Love by Steve Bell. I will read the lyrics. Oh, and just a quick note that if you want to learn more about Andy Crouch and the suggestion that curing bad culture is to use good culture or create good culture, the book is called Culture Making, Recovering Our Creative Calling, InterVarsity Press, 2013. Okay, This Is Love, lyrics by Steve Bell. Father, just before the hour comes that was set aside to glorify your Son, with a glory from before the world began, with a glory given to no other man, protect the ones you've given me to love. I so desire that none of them be lost. They've yet to understand the mystery, why the Son of God would wash another's feet. But this is not the same. It's a different thing. Altogether. My prayer is not for only these alone, but for those who follow after they're gone. May they understand the love you have for me as the kind of love that changes everything. And they argue who will sit next to the throne. I cringe to hear them say, "Thy kingdom come." They think they know what they're getting into. We both know that they haven't got a clue. Because this is not the same. It's another thing altogether. This is love. Here's something that they won't like. Someone's coming to take the life. No one has to look farther than me. I am he. Some will trust in the devils they think they know. They should think again and let them go. Put away the sword and get behind and let me die. 'Cause this is not the same. It's a better thing altogether. This is love. This is